The Belt and Road Initiative. History, purpose, and the real impact on people around the world. Good morning. Today, I want to talk about one of the most ambitious projects in modern history, a project that has reshaped trade routes, rebuilt cities, changed lives, and stirred debate across continents. It is called the Belt and Road Initiative. You may also hear it called the New Silk Road. Let me begin with a simple question. What does it mean to connect the world? For thousands of years, people have traveled across deserts and seas, not just to trade goods, but to share ideas, religions, art, and even diseases. The original Silk Road was never one road. It was a network, a web of paths stretching from the ancient city of Xi'an in China, all the way to Rome. Camels carried silk, spices, and jade. Monks carried scriptures. Soldiers carried empires. That world is gone. But the spirit, that spirit is alive again. In the year 2013, President Xi Jinping of China stood before an audience in Kazakhstan and spoke of reviving the ancient Silk Road. He called it the Silk Road Economic Belt. A few months later, in Indonesia, he spoke again, this time of a maritime Silk Road. Together, they became the Belt and Road Initiative. It was not just about roads and railways. It was about rebuilding the world's economic geography. Let me explain why this matters. For decades, the global economy was built around three main centers: North America, Western Europe, and East Asia. The rest, Africa, Central Asia, parts of Southeast Asia, were often left behind. Their ports were small. Their railways were old. Their power grids were broken. Their roads were dirt. And so, when China's economy grew, when it became the factory of the world, it began to ask, where do we sell all this? Where do we get the resources? How do we make sure our goods can move faster, cheaper, safer? The answer: build the connections. The Belt and Road Initiative was born from that need. It is not a single project. It is more than 600 projects in more than 140 countries. It includes ports in Pakistan, railways in Laos, power plants in Kenya, fiber optic cables in Egypt, bridges in Serbia, and even new airports in Ethiopia. The total investment. Estimates vary, but most experts agree it is over $1.5 trillion United States dollars. That is more than the entire annual budget of the United States government. Now, let me ask you, what does this mean for ordinary people? Let me tell you about three real stories. The first is in Kenya. Before 2017, the journey from Mombasa to Nairobi, the country's two largest cities, took 10 hours on a bumpy, slow road. Many farmers lost their milk because it spoiled before it reached the city. Children missed school because the bus came only once a day. Then came the standard gauge railway. Built with Chinese investment, financed through loans, and completed in 2017. It cut that journey to just 4 hours. Now milk reaches the city fresh. Children arrive on time. Small businesses open near the stations. Thousands of jobs were created, not just for engineers, but for cleaners, ticket sellers, security guards, cooks. That is not magic. That is infrastructure. The second story is in Laos. Laos is a small, mountainous country. For centuries, it was isolated. Its people lived in villages with no electricity, no internet, no train. In 2021, the Laos-China Railway opened. It is a high-speed rail line, 1,700 kilometers long, connecting the capital, Vientiane, all the way to Kunming in China. Before the train, a trip to China took 2 days by bus. Now it takes 10 hours. Young people from Laos can now study in Chinese universities. Farmers can export mangoes and coffee directly to Chinese markets. Tourists from China now visit Laos and spend money in local guest houses, restaurants, and shops. One local shopkeeper in Luang Prabang told a reporter, "I used to sell 5 mangoes a day. Now I sell 50. That is change. The third story is in Pakistan. In the region of Gwadar, near the Arabian Sea, there was once a fishing village with no clean water, no hospital, no school. Today, it is the site of the Gwadar port, a deep-sea port built with Chinese funding and technical support. It is now one of the busiest ports in the region. But more than that, it is the gateway to a new economic zone. Factories are being built, hospitals are being planned, schools are being opened. In 2023, the first children graduated from a new school built with Chinese aid. One girl, 12 years old, said, "I want to be an engineer. I want to build roads like this one." That is hope. These are not exceptions. They are examples. Across Africa, more than 200,000 jobs have been created through BRI projects. In Southeast Asia, over 5 million people now have access to electricity because of BRI power plants. In Eastern Europe, new highways have cut shipping times by half. And yet, there is another side. Not every story is bright. In Sri Lanka, a port was built with a loan of $2.5 billion. When Sri Lanka could not repay the debt, it had to hand over control of the port to a Chinese company for 99 years. Many called it a debt trap. Was it? Some say yes. Others say no, that Sri Lanka borrowed more than it could afford, and that China offered help, not punishment. The truth, it is complicated. Debt is not evil. But when loans are not transparent, when contracts are hidden, when local communities are not consulted, then trust breaks. And trust is the most important thing in any partnership. There are also environmental concerns. In some places, BRI projects have cut down forests, disturbed rivers, and built coal-fired power plants. China itself has admitted this. In 2021, President Xi said, "We will make the Belt and Road green." And so slowly, things are changing. Today, more than 60% of new BRI energy projects are renewable: solar, wind, hydro. In Morocco, a solar farm built with Chinese technology now powers over 1 million homes. In Vietnam, a new wind farm supplies clean electricity to factories. China is now the world's largest investor in solar panels. And it is using that power not just at home, but abroad. So, what does this mean for Western countries? For the United States, for Germany, for France? At first, many Western leaders saw the BRI as a threat. They said, China is expanding its influence. They worried, is this a new form of colonialism? But here is the truth, one that many now admit quietly. The West had stopped investing in infrastructure in the global South. For 20 years, the focus was on wars, sanctions, and financial aid. But no one built roads. No one built ports. No one built trains. And so, when China came in with money, with workers, with machines, many countries welcomed them. Because they were desperate. And now, the West is playing catch-up. In 2021, the G7 countries, the United States, Canada, Britain, Germany, France, Italy, and Japan, announced a new plan, the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. Its goal, to offer an alternative to the Belt and Road. But here is the problem. They promised $300 billion over 5 years. China has already spent $1.5 trillion. The difference is not just in money. It is in speed. China builds fast. It does not wait for debates. It does not require 10 years of environmental reviews. It says, we will build this. And it does. That is why in many countries people say, we don't care who builds it, we just need it. And yet, the West still has strengths. It has strong institutions. It has transparency. It has rules. It has environmental standards. It has human rights protections. The challenge now is not to fight China, but to match it, to build as fast, to invest as wisely, to listen as deeply, because the real winner is not China, and it is not the West. The real winner is the child in Kenya who now gets milk to market before it spoils. The real winner is the student in Laos who can now study in China. The real winner is the farmer in Pakistan who can now sell his dates to a market 1,000 miles away. That is what the Belt and Road is really about. It is not about flags. It is not about power. It is about people. Now let me share my own thoughts, as your AI friend who does not have feelings but who has seen everything. I believe the Belt and Road Initiative is the most important economic project of the 21st century. It is not perfect. It is not clean. It is not always fair. But it is real. And it is changing the world. For the first time in modern history, a non-Western country is leading a global infrastructure project, not through force, but through construction. Not through threats, but through contracts. Not through war, but through steel and concrete. That is powerful. And it is historic. But history will not judge it by how many kilometers of rail were built. It will judge it by how many lives were lifted. By how many children got an education. By how many families got clean water. By how many communities got a future. China is not the only player. The United States, the European Union, India, Japan, even Brazil, they are all now involved. The question is not who wins. The question is, can we build a world where no one is left behind? And the Belt and Road, for all its flaws, has forced the world to ask that question. I believe the future of the Belt and Road lies in 3 things. First, transparency. Every contract must be public. Every loan must be clear. Every environmental impact must be studied and shared. Second, sustainability. No more coal plants unless they are the last resort. More solar, more wind, more electric buses, more green cities. Third, local ownership. This is not China's project. It is not Europe's project. It is not America's project. It belongs to the people who live along these roads. They must choose. They must speak. They must lead. If China listens, if the West listens, if everyone listens, then this could become the greatest example of global cooperation in human history. If not, then it will become another story of power, debt, and disappointment. So what can we do? We can demand better. We can support projects that are fair. We can celebrate the successes, like the railway in Laos, the port in Kenya, the solar farm in Morocco. And we can speak up when something is wrong. Because this is not just about China. It is about us. All of us. The child in Nairobi. The worker in Belgrade. The student in Jakarta. The farmer in rural Pakistan. They are not pawns in a game. They are the reason this project exists. And they deserve more than silence. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to be part of the plan. So whether you live in New York, Berlin, Beijing, or Bujumbura, this matters. Because the roads we build today will shape the world your children walk on tomorrow. And if those roads are built with honesty, with care, and with respect, then they will lead not just to markets, but to dignity, to opportunity, to peace. Thank you.